Good morning and welcome to Deadline Press Agency's run-through of today's top news stories. It's Monday the 2nd of October and I'm Oliver Faramond.
And I'm Rory Reynolds. Let's have a look at today's papers.
I'm going to start with the Times and the front page of the Times, and this is probably the biggest story running across the papers today. A spate of resignations from the government's Council on the Misuse of Drugs after the chief of this group was forced into resignation last week.
Daily Mail as well on page 4 calling this a drugs war and saying, noting how yesterday that Alan Johnson, the health secretary, went on TV to defend the sacking of the cannabis advisor. And this unfolded on BBC News 24 yesterday afternoon. Professor David Nutt revealed on live TV that several other of his colleagues had quit. Also in the Daily Mail today on their front page, they said that a loophole in sex crimes could mean that thousands of children are at risk. They've noted here that nearly 4,000 people are on the sex offenders register in Scotland, but fewer than 400 are on a list that prevents them from working with children.
And that news comes as senior members of one of Scotland's largest paedophile rings were jailed for life last week. And in similar news on page 3 of the Herald, a senior BBC producer has been charged as part of Operation Algebra, the overarching investigation into child sex crimes in Scotland. Moving back to the front page of the Herald, a new agency has been set up within the Scottish Crime and Drug Enforcement Agency. The Scottish Intelligence Coordination Unit, or SICU, will focus on creating new intelligence to fight human trafficking, serious fraud and organised crime in Scotland, where it's a huge problem.
This exclusive from Lucy Adams, the Herald's chief reporter, just adds that there'll be staff from the Prison Service and UK Border and Customs, as long as several other agencies, to fully equip them to deal with organised criminals.
Moving on to the Scottish Daily Express, on the front page, another health story, another splash for health editor Victoria Fletcher. Gentle exercise can dramatically cut the risk of heart problems in later life. That's their front page today, but something I expect a few people perhaps already knew.
And a story on page 5 of the Express today, MSPs claiming for wreaths for Remembrance Sunday. They've been allowed to claim £16 for a wreath to lay, but there's been quite a storm over this over the weekend.
It was the front page of the Edinburgh Evening News on Saturday.
On page 21 of the Daily Record today, the row over Frankie Boyle's comments about Olympic swimmer Rebecca Adlington. Her agent has spoken out for her, saying he should be banned for the BBC. And this is in several of the other papers today. The Daily Mail saying that criticising the decision not to sack him.
Frankie Boyle, of course, compared Rebecca Adlington's face to a spoon, and he's actually used to have a column in the Record and moved across to the Sun for a different sum. And of course, they've taken a rather hard line on his slightly edgy jokes.
Yes, the headline here is Sack Frankie. Going back to the front page of the Daily Record today, an exclusive that a prostitute, or high-class call girl as they're calling her, has been advertising her services on Twitter. Instead of using newspapers, she said that I like to keep it 21st century. I'm on Twitter, Bebo, and other websites.
The Record uncovered the Dundee-based call girl in a sting operation, and they also note that she went to a public school, a Catholic boarding school in Perthshire. Elsewhere in Twitter news, Stephen Fry was tweetering on the edge of leaving social networking site Twitter over the weekend as one of his fans called his tweets boring, and it looked like he might leave for a while, but he's not. That's on page 3 of The Sun, and the front page of The Sun today. They've got a good couple of exclusives. An 11-week-old girl has been diagnosed with leukemia, and doctors are battling to save her at the Sick Kids Hospital in Glasgow, and it's the youngest person to be treated with leukemia in Scotland. The other exclusive on the first page of the Scottish Sun today, the first woman beefeater in 522 years, i.e. ever, has been facing bullying at her work by her jealous male colleagues. They edited her Wikipedia account and left aggressive messages for her. And a source said that she may have ruffled a few feathers.
They've noted that 2 beefeaters have been suspended and an investigation ordered to be carried out.
On the front page of today's Daily Star of Scotland, once again, Axe Factor and Jordan dominate that page 1. But moving into the paper, on page 19, a man who's been told to steer clear of his wife after medics found that he is allergic to her.
Darren Young from South Yorkshire has died twice and had to be revived again after being with his wife. And on page 21, a very typically Daily Star story, The number of women whose breast implants are exploding has soared by 30%, and they're putting this down to dodgy surgery. Although they have a quote here from the British Medical Association saying that breast implants are safer than they've ever been.
More expenses turmoil on the front page of the Daily Telegraph. Harriet Harman saying that it's not fair for MPs to have to sack their spouses. And a Conservative MP, David Wilshire, has compared the plight of the Jews under the Nazis to the MP's current predicament over the expenses scandal.
There's a story on page 1, 2 and 3 of the Telegraph. Helen Mirren went to Russia to begin filming work on The Last Station, which is about the Bolshevik Revolution in 1917. But ironically, she was confronted by AK-47 wielding guards when she went to a mansion on the outskirts of Moscow. On the front page of the Scotsman today, there's an interesting story that several businessmen in Scotland are putting together funds to bid for the former bank TSB. This comes as Lloyds have been told they must sell TSB, and they are bidding to set up a new independent Scottish bank. This also comes as announcements to break up several of the government-owned banks, which will see the return of Williams and Glyn, which closed in the 1970s, as well as a new bank called Bankco to be born out of Northern Rock.
Tesco and Virgin Money reportedly in the mix for these branches as well. Road closures, floods and abandoned football matches. It was floody hell in Scotland yesterday as torrential downpours saw the end to a very long summer in Scotland. Dundee United and Rangers game abandoned at half-time with Rangers 1-0 up. Both managers backing the decision, which was made for the players' safety.
And just on page 9, the Scotsman have a sad announcement that their rural affairs editor has died after a short illness. Dan Buglas was just 64 and had been at the Scotsman since January 2007, and they've paid tribute to his long and varied career in broadcasting and print journalism.
That was today's top stories in the Scottish press on this rather windy Monday. I'm Oliver Faramond.
And I'm Rory Reynolds. Do join us tomorrow.